Imagine being given the key to your prison cell. Most people would walk out, but one man locked himself in for 50 years. And in that time, he built a castle, not as a punishment, as a purpose. This is the story of William Will Watson, the prisoner who escaped without ever leaving, and the man who transformed captivity into freedom. In early 20th century Britain, if you were poor, mentally unwell, or without family, the law could classify you as a poor prisoner. You weren't guilty of anything, but you could still be locked away, a ghost in the system. That was the fate of Will Watson. His past is a blank. His records, almost nothing. History swallowed him whole the day he entered the prison system. He became a number, a name in a ledger. And in 1913, he was sent to a place that would become his entire world. A wind-swept outpost off the coast of Cornwall called St. Nicholas Island, later known as Drake's Island. This wasn't a prison with bars and cells. It was worse. A scattering of crumbling barracks. A fortress of damp stone, lashed by wind and sea. The prisoners here weren't violent men. They were unwanted men, forgotten by society, trapped in limbo, with sentences that had no end date. Most of them labored reluctantly at simple maintenance tasks. Cleaning, hauling, repairing. But Will Watson saw something else. Where others saw decay, he saw possibility. One day, he made a request that must have stunned the wardens. He didn't ask for release. He asked for permission to build, not to build for the prison, but for himself. From that day forward, his sentence changed. He stopped counting days. He started counting stones. With nothing but basic tools, using stone quarry from the island itself, he began work. What he created wasn't a shack or a hut. It was something closer to a fortress. Walls, turrets, a fireplace, even a terrace. A small but proud castle, perched above the restless sea. The sound of his hammer and chisel became the heartbeat of the island. For years, then decades, his fellow prisoners left, one by one, but Will stayed. And with every stone, he reclaimed something the system had taken from him, his identity. Most prisoners dreamed of escape. Will Watson dreamed of building. The other men lived in misery because their minds were always elsewhere, on the mainland, on a freedom they couldn't reach. They lived in absence, but Will refused absence. He gave himself a purpose so absolute, it dissolved the prison walls. He became the island's mason, its caretaker, its king. He no longer answered to the name Poor Prisoner Watson. He was Will Watson, the man who built the castle. And then, after half a century, everything changed. In the 1960s, the authorities decided to shut down the facility. One by one, the last poor prisoners were released. When Will Watson's turn came, he was an old man. They told him he was free to leave, free to walk away from the island. And he said no. By then, Will had no family, no friends waiting for him on the mainland, no money, no home. The world outside had transformed beyond recognition, but the island was his home. His castle was his. The authorities faced a dilemma. What do you do with a prisoner who refuses freedom? In a twist no one could have written better, they made a decision. They appointed him caretaker of Drake's Island. The prisoner became the warden. The inmate became the guardian. And Will Watson, the forgotten man, lived out his final years not as a prisoner, but as a king in a castle he built with his own hands. He died in 1975. The castles still stand today. So was Will Watson ever truly imprisoned? Or was he, in some way, the freest man who ever lived? He reminds us that freedom is not always a place. Sometimes it's a purpose. The walls that hold us are often not stone, but longing, the constant desire to be somewhere else. And sometimes the most radical escape is not running away, but building something beautiful right where you are. If stories like this move you, subscribe to Daily Curio Hub for more forgotten histories and human mysteries. And tell me in the comments, if you had to spend your life in just one place, where would it be?